if you are a private practice owner and your billing still feels like this mystery black box, the money comes in, the money goes out, and you're not really sure if you're leaving cash on the table, this episode's going to be for you. You probably don't need to be a billing expert to run your practice, but you do need 3 very simple numbers to do that effectively. Number 1, your denial rate. Number 2, your percent collected versus projected. And number 3, how much of your AR is stuck over the 90-day mark. And so today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what a really healthy billing department looks like, and specifically for each of those core metrics, when you should worry, and the basic people, systems, and questions that you can use to lead your billing team or your billing company in just 1 to 2 hours per week. Welcome to episode number 9. Hey, today's episode, just so you know, guys, today we're going to talk about billing. And I am not a billing expert by any means, but I do know how to run a billing department, and I do know the core metrics to use. And so what I did was I leaned on a good friend of mine. Her name is Doreen Goday. She owns PT Billing Associates. Reached out to her and said, hey, Doreen, I'm going to be making a YouTube video to add value to practice owners. We're going to cover basic billing department health, some core metrics, and I'd love for your feedback. And so a lot of the information that you're going to get from today's notes, a lot of it's high level from me, but many of the key details are going to be coming straight from Doreen, because she's a wizard at this stuff. So she was so kind to actually answer a lot of our questions and give me some feedback on the best pieces of value that would be useful for you. So check out the show notes. In this episode, you're going to see a link to her website called PT Billing Associates. And if you're looking for some feedback or some billing support, reach out to Doreen and let her know that Dr. Adam Robbins sent you. Okay. So, hey, welcome to episode number 9. By the way, forgive me for the crazy scenery. I know if you guys have been watching along this journey so far, I'm in the middle of a transition. I just sold my house, and I'm having I'm going to be setting up a new office in the next couple weeks. So stay tuned. I promise the scene's going to get better, but right now it's just a dirty spare bedroom in the new house. All right. So today we're going to talk about billing. All right. Billing department, because I don't know about you guys, some of you are doing your billing internally, and you've got a really tight pulse on your billing, and that's fine. That's awesome if you do. Hopefully today you can learn a little bit more on how to be more effective. But if you're anything like me, whenever I started my practice, I didn't know anything about billing. I just outsourced it to this billing department, this billing company, and I was just hoping and praying that they did a good job. And I didn't know how to hold them accountable. I didn't know what good looked like. I didn't know how to manage that effectively. And so as a result, I ended up entering into a few billing, outsourced billing solutions that took advantage of me, quite frankly, didn't perform. And also the cash flow in my practice suffered as a result from it. All right. And so if that's you, I think this is going to be helpful for you. But the common reality for most practice owners, especially in today's private practice market, is that your cash is choppy. What that means is some days are good, some days are bad. There's no steady cash flow rhythm. Number 2 is you're anxious about payroll. Payroll's coming due, and twice a year there's 3 payroll cycles in a month, and that's really scary. All right. And then number 3, you don't really know if your billing department is doing a really good job. And some of the fear or the limiting beliefs that we have around that as owners is that, it might be, I'm not a billing person, so hopefully it's fine. That's the mistake I made. Don't make that mistake. And so the goal of today is going to be to give you a 3 scorecard system and a few simple questions so that you can lead your billing department at the owner level and not have to become the biller. All right. So let's talk about the 3 metrics. The 3 billing numbers. And by the way, guys, I'm kind of doing this live. I did some prep work last week on this episode, so forgive me if it's not perfectly polished. It's going to be a little bit of a riff, but I do have some notes. Okay, I want to give you 3 numbers. Number 1 is your denial rate. Usually that's a percentage. All right. your denial rate percentage. Very strong, powerful number to help you understand how efficient. It's probably, if I had to guess, if I had to put a single number, it's probably the leading indicator that will essentially help you estimate the overall health of your revenue cycle is your denial rate. Because if the denial rate is high, that means a few things. Number one, it's going to mean that the time between you completing your delivering services and actually getting paid for them is going to be lengthened, or it's never going to happen, right? And so like the percentage of money that's uncollected will gradually increase if your denial rate's too high. That's really the main things. And so it's really important to make sure you have a really healthy a low denial rate, okay? And so denial rate is going to be essentially the percentage of claims that come back denied on the first pass, right? So what is first pass? First pass is going to be you do a visit and you code it, you bill it, you document it, and you submit the claim, and what percentage of that initial pass gets approved, right? And so if you submit 100 claims in a week and only 95% of them actually get approved after 30 days or whatever it is, then you have in that example, that would be a 5% denial rate. Okay. And so that 5%, which actually isn't bad, but that 5% is extra work for you, extra work for your team, more complexity that backlogs into the system. And so the likelihood that you actually ever get paid for those dollars is going to be lower, and it's going to be more expensive for you to actually collect on them. Okay. And so we want that to be as low as possible to keep things clean. So a healthy target is going to be somewhere between 3 and 7%. And that's going to depend on what area of the country you're in, what insurance contracts you're in network with. Some of them are more administratively heavy than others. That's not a one size fits all. But essentially, if you can kind of estimate somewhere around 3 to 7% is kind of where you want to be. Ideally under 4%. Ideal is under 4%. So 3.9% or less. And by the way, that number is coming from me working with a lot of practice owners across the country, also working with other billing companies that work with a lot of practice owners across the country. And so under 4% is really, really healthy. Okay. And so your red flag. So how do you know if it's bad, right? Essentially, if you have a denial rate that is going to be, above 7%, if you have a denial rate between, 8 and 10% or higher, that is going to be a clue to you that you have a process problem, not just payer noise. Okay. So if your denial rate is 8 to 10%, that's usually a process problem. Okay. And that's really important. That's really important because what that means is that if it's process driven, that means there's something you can do about it, right? So a lot of the mistakes that I've made in the past is seeing high denial rates. Let's say you're in network with Medicaid or some type of insurance in your area that gives you problems. The mistake that we make is like, oh, that's just the way it is working with Medicaid, or that's just the way it is working with blank insurance company. And the truth is that's not the way it is. It may require extra effort and work and extra focus to streamline that process. And we can have a debate on whether that extra effort is worth the actual ROI. That's probably a different episode. But if it's process driven, the process can be fixed and improved. And if we can fix and improve and focus our energy on that process, we can drive that denial rate down to under 7%, ideally under 4%, and improve the cash flow and overall health of our private practice. All right. So that is going to be metric number 1. Okay. Denial rate. Metric number 2 is going to be the percent collected versus projected. Okay. I'm going to underline these for you. Okay. Percent collected versus projected. That means if you're doing a good job, if you're running a decent workflow around your finances, you should be projecting your revenue every month. And so you should be able to say, either through technology or through standard measurement protocols, you should be able to say like, hey, I know based on my formula, which I'll give to you here in a second, I saw this many visits for the month. I know my average revenue per visit. Therefore, for the following month, I should be able to collecting X number of dollars, considering that there's this many working days in the month, etc. I know I should be collecting this many dollars. And if I can do a good job of actually projecting a month in advance where our collections are at, then I can compare what's actually hitting the account versus what's being projected. Okay. And that is a really good, really strong number that will help you understand how the overall health of your revenue cycle, right? So if you're having a lot of denials, or if you're not working, if your billing department's not working denials very well, or if they're having a lag between how fast they're submitting claims or whatever it is, that percentage will be low, right? You will not be collecting what is actually projected. Therefore, all of your budgets are set on the projections. And if you're not hitting that projected number at 100%, then you're going to get in trouble. Okay. So that was a lot of words, but percent collected versus projected is essentially how much of the allowed amount you're actually collecting after the contractual write-offs. Okay. And so I explained that. And so it's given our visit volume and usual allowed amounts, what are we actually getting paid? Right. And so what we want to see is somewhere between 97 and 103%. Okay, so essentially we should be teetering around that 100% mark month over month. All right, month over month. And if you're below mid 90s consistently, or if you're consistently below mid 90s, if you're at 96, 95, 94, that's 4 or 5% profits that you're missing every month. All right. And something's not working. Your projections are not working. Either you're projecting too high, right? So you might have to recalculate your revenue per visit. Maybe you're not collecting over the counter. Maybe you have a lot of denials piling up. Maybe your billing department's not working AR very well. You get the point. All right. So I want to share with you how I measure it. Now, I'm not suggesting that this is the only way to measure it, but this is how I measure it. And it's served me very well. Okay. So the first thing you have to know is average reimbursement per visit. Let's see. I'm going to put how to measure. How to measure. Okay. Number one, you have to know your average revenue per visit. Okay. So that is very simple. Look at all the visits you did, divided by the total. Look at all the revenue that you collected, divided by the total number of visits that you've seen. And so this needs to be a global metric. So if you are, I would recommend using like a trailing 3-month formula. Essentially what you'll look at is, let's say I had 1,000 visits for the month and I collected $100,000, right? So an example would be, let's say I look over 3-month period and I collect $100,000. And I look at that same 3-month period and I say, oh, and I completed 1,000 visits. Visits. Basically, I'm just going to take this number divided by this number, and that's going to give me $100 per visit. Again, this is going to be Adam's simple math so he doesn't get confused on a YouTube video, okay? But it might not be $100 a visit. It might be $110.12. It might be $92.14. The point is, you want to collect it at a macro level compared to actual dollars hitting the bank account, not whatever the EOB says, because what this will measure is, this will be a measurement that will encapsulate a lot of factors, such as how well you're collecting over the counter, how well you're billing and coding, how well your AR team is doing, right? And so that number is really, really important. Okay, so if you measure that first, all right, let's say in this example, we're going to agree that, in our company, based on the operational execution that we have right now, we're averaging $100 per visit, clean. Okay. And let's say it is, at the time of this episode, it is July. So let's say in June, let's say we did 500 visits. Okay. Now there's some subtleties to this that are important, but I'm going to give you guys some tools. If you guys stick around in the next 1 or 2 episodes, I'm going to give you guys some free dashboards to be able to plug all this in, so that way you're not guessing. So forgive me if I don't hit every single specific on a single YouTube video, but this will help you understand the big picture. In June, let's say you did 500 visits. All right. You know that you have an average reimbursement rate of $100 a visit. Therefore, we can project that in July, we should be collecting 500 visits times $100 a visit. Let's see if it's not going to do it for me. That should be equaled 50K. Okay. So in July, we're estimating that we're going to collect $50,000. Now, that doesn't mean it's precise, but it means if we continue to measure it that way month over month, we should see that rolling projected versus collected month over month. Okay, so let's say we get through July, now we're in August. Okay, we go to the bank, we run our bank statement, and we see that the actual collected was $48,654.13. All right. This is August actual. I'm sorry. This is July actual. Okay. And so what we can do there is we should just have a spreadsheet that says what we're measuring is collected versus projected. So this is our collected. This is our projected. And so the percentage is going to be $48,654.13 divided by $50,000. Let's see if it does it for me. That doesn't sound right. All right, so it's $48,654.13 divided by $50,000, which is going to be .97, which is going to be 97%. Okay, 97% collected versus projected. There's probably a few decimal places that we can add to that, but that's what my iPhone calculator gave me. Okay, so 97%. So you could see that if we measure it like this, we should see that rolling 100%. Now, if this number comes back to say like 92%, what I can do is say, hey, biller, we only collected 92%. What's going on, right? Now we have a number that we can hold people accountable to. That doesn't mean that necessarily there's a problem, but it's at least worthy of investigation. Okay? All right. So I spoke a lot about that. Hopefully that makes sense. So denial rate, percent collected versus projected. You're measuring those things every month. Number 3 is going to be your AR over 90 days. Okay? Your AR over 90 days, or your accounts receivable over 90 days. If you're a young practice owner, you're probably like, what the heck is that? If you're a seasoned practice owner, you're like, I know exactly what that is. So stick around. All right, so I'm going to give you some standards, some benchmarks that you can use. And so basically what this is going to measure is the percentage of your AR, of your accounts receivable, that is older than 90 days. Meaning these are going to be claims. This is going to be services that were rendered, meaning you've already delivered care to your patients. You've already billed X insurance, the dollars, but that money has not been, that money has not been paid to you. And you have been waiting at least 90 days or longer for that money. And so the percentage of the money that is uncollected, that has been uncollected for at least a period of 90 days or more. We want to drive that number down so we can speed up collections as quickly as possible. And you do that by improving your denial rates, improving your the way that you code and bill, improving your insurance verification process, all the ways that we keep a healthy AR. Okay. So healthy is going to be around 10%. Okay. So if you look at the total number of dollars that are outstanding, no more than 10% should be sitting uncollected for a greater than 90-day period. 90 days or longer. Okay. Larger practices might have a little bit of an elevated AR, but we want to keep it at least around 10%. Another really good model that I've heard is the 85-5-10 model. Okay. This is going to be a little bit different than this. Both of these are fine. The point is you want to have, and also both of these are going to be dependent upon where you practice and the types of insurances that you're in network with, all of the things. Both of those are fine. And so neither one of them are right or wrong. The point is have a standard that you're going to hold to and hold your company accountable to. All right. So what this model measures is 60 days. Let's say it's going to be 60 to 90, 90 to 120, and 120 plus. Okay. So if you look at your AR, what this is saying is that 80% of your AR should be within 60 days. Okay. Which is this bucket here. 80% of your AR should be within 60 days. Within 60 days old. Okay. 5% of your AR should be somewhere between 60 and 90 days old. 5% of your AR should be somewhere between 90 and 120 days old. And then 10% of your AR should be, no more than 10% of your AR should be greater than 120 days. Now, this is going to exclude workman's comp and attorney liens. Okay? Typically. So that's another model, right? So you can see that in this model, we're looking at more of a 15% greater than 90 days versus a 10%. Fine. The point is, have a line. have a line that you're going to draw. And so if you go pull your AR and you say like, hey, show me the percentage of uncollected money that's greater than 90 days, and you see something like, 25%, you're probably, and you're like, I don't know why I can't be profitable. Big focus, right? We could focus our energy there to kind of clean that up. All right. So those are the 3 metrics. Hopefully that makes sense for you guys. Let's talk about how to fix it. Let's talk about how to fix them. I'm going to give you some keys. I'm hopefully not going to spend a ton of time here. But a lot of this came from Doreen. A lot of this is stuff we know already. So some of the stuff you may not know. Hopefully some of this is helpful. Okay, let's talk about the denial rate. The root causes. Okay, root causes of denial rate. Number 1, this is going to be authorizations. Missing or late authorizations is like big ticket item. Authorizations are late. They're not being submitted on time. We're not organizing them well. That's number 1. Number 2, incomplete or inconsistent data at the front desk. Okay. This is going to mean insurance verification, accurately and thoroughly verifying all insurance plans, and inserting the accurate information, the patient's name, the right spelling of the name, the right insurance card, the right verification stuff inside the patient chart. All right. And number 3 is going to be diagnosis coding. It's going to be diagnosis or coding issues. Okay. Using CPT codes or diagnosis codes that are uncovered. All right. That's the root cause of the denial rates. All right. So if you understand that these are the root causes, then it becomes pretty apparent on how to fix them. Right. So if you go to your billing department and say, hey, billing department, ideally I would recommend having like a weekly meeting with your biller. At least weekly. At least monthly. Monthly would be like the absolute least, but like weekly would be better. And you say, okay, I want to start tracking our denial rate every single month. I want to see denial rate month over month, and just start putting it in a spreadsheet. And you're seeing things like 10, 12, 15% denials. That is a problem, right? That means the next question is, why are you having those denial rates? What are the driving factors that are influencing the denial rate the most? Typically, it's going to be authorization issues, incomplete or inconsistent data from the front desk, or diagnosis and coding. So you have to look upstream in the revenue cycle, meaning things that happen prior to the submission result in the denial. Okay. So the things that improve denial rates or lower them are accurate data, timely and thorough and efficient auths, and only using coding and diagnoses that are approved by the insurance. If you can submit those claims with all accurate information, then denial rates will massively be reduced. All right. So you have to start asking yourself things like, for authorizations, do you have somebody on your team who owns the authorization department, right? If everyone's submitting auths everywhere, probably not effective, right? So you want everybody can help with it, but there's one person that's accountable, right? So one person in your company is responsible and accountable for reporting and interpreting the performance of authorizations and making decisions around scheduling and delivering care around the authorization data, right? So I would say, number one, assign a single person to own auths. Okay. One person in the company. If everyone's responsible, then no one's responsible, right? One person in the company owns authorizations. They're in charge of tracking them, confirming that they're live, that they're on pace, that everything is working well with them. Making sure they're tracking renewal dates, right? So, as you guys know, every authorization is going to come with maybe a visit limit, right? Or a date expiration. And so we want to track those every single week to see like which authorizations are coming due via either date range or visit limit. And what are we doing about that this week? Are we submitting an authorization? Are we updating the plan of care? Let's have a conversation in our weekly team meeting to make sure that's reported on and there's an actual plan that's executed on. All right. So that is the most common issue. Okay. So that's number one. Number two is going to be a simple weekly process. Okay. Some of this is coming from Doreen. But a weekly process could be to audit new patient data. Okay. All new patients from the previous week want to audit their data, make sure that their profiles are updated, their insurance verification is full, and have some type of auditing process to make sure that that's full. Okay. You want to run your denial reports. Okay. Which ones were denied? Why were they denied? And what are we doing about it? Okay. Ideally, you want to try to identify the top reasons and payers that are driving your denials week over week. And then you want to run your aging report. Okay. Run your aging report. Look at all the claims that should have been paid by now but aren't. And note the patterns and have some type of consolidation and report. Right? So the main way to drive denial rates is going to be having a strong person owning the auths, having a weekly process of accountability to ensure that you have accurate and complete data in the patient's chart, and you're verifying all of the insurances cleanly and accurately. And when you notice that there are denials due to diagnosis codes or coding, because they are going to happen, there's going to be codes that slip through the cracks. There's going to be diagnosis codes. The answer isn't, oh, just forget about it. The answer is to go back and scrub those codes from actually being used inside your EMR. So if you have a good EMR, you should be able to see, hey, insurance A does not pay for these 3 CPT codes. So you should be able to go into your EMR and block those codes from being billed at the provider level so that they don't accidentally bill them. They can choose another code that better aligns with the care that they're trying to deliver. And if you do these 3 things, then you're going to see denial rates start to improve. All right. So that's how you fix that. All right. And so if you can do that well, if you can improve your denial rates, a lot of times improving things on the front end of the revenue cycle is going to be the thing that helps all the downstream issues. Your AR is going to improve. Your projected versus collected is going to improve. Everything is going to get better. All right. So that will naturally lead us to projected versus collected. Okay. Improving your denial rates will improve this metric massively. All right. So, but like we mentioned, healthy ranges are going to be somewhere between 97 and 103%. If you're anywhere below that, then you're leaving money on the table. Okay. So what are the reasons why this is happening? What are the reasons why this would be low? All right. Number 1, it's going to be late claim submission. Okay. Not getting claims out on time. Or that could be due to, late documentation. Right? If you have providers that have like tons and tons of notes that are outstanding, they got to get those in a timely manner, or you're not going to be able to submit the claim and you're going to have your AR pile up. All right. Number 2 could be non-working denials. Okay. This is why it's really important to make sure that this denial rate is as low as possible. We want to keep this as low as possible. Okay? Because every increase in percentage of denial rate is going to be an increase in workload on your billing department. And if that workload continues to go up, especially as you scale up your practice, then that denial rate is going to increase. Your denial rate will continue to grow and your projected versus collected will continue to suffer. And so therefore your margins are going to suffer. Okay. So we want to keep that denial rate as low as possible so that your billing department has the bandwidth and energy that they need to work them effectively. All right. So they need to make sure they have systems in place to identify the denial, uncover why it was denied, fix the underlying reason of the denial, and resubmitting it in a timely fashion. So we want that turnaround time to be very quick so that we can get paid as quickly as possible. All right. And then the third thing, which is going to be maybe something a little bit non-biller related, but it can be underbilling, or under collecting over the counter. Okay. So yeah, that would make your projection, like if you're projecting at $100 a visit and you're assuming that you're going to be collecting 100% over the counter and you're going to be billing, 4 units a visit on average, and then you run this for a quarter and you realize that you're only collecting 90% over the counter and you're at 3.5 units per visit being billed, then your projections are going to be skewed, right? Your projections will be high, but your actual collections will be low. So you have to look at your billing and collections performance in order to make sure that that's working. Okay. And so with that being said, you want to, if you're going to solve these 3 problems, right, you're going to want to have a weekly cadence of claims, visits completed and versus percentage of claims that were submitted, right? So if you went for the week and you completed 100 visits, you want to see 100 claims were submitted by the end of the week. Therefore, you have a 100% submission rate week over week. Okay, so you can start tracking that every week with your billing department. And 100% of your documentation is completed week over week. If there's 100 visits, you should see a 100 complete and signed notes. If they're not, then you have to have a conversation with your therapy team, your clinical team, and be like, hey, we got to get these done on time. Okay, having clear policies in place. Non-working denials, it's really important to make sure that your denial rate is manageable and your billing department and team has a very strong system of, like I said, recognizing the denial and working them quickly. And they're reporting that to you on a week-by-week basis. And then lastly, tracking your units per visit, which we discussed that in the previous episode, and your over-the-counter collections like a hawk, and making sure you're not trying to overbill, but you're trying to make sure that you're at least getting everything that you should, so that you don't want to have to make hard financial decisions in your company just to find out that all you had to do was tighten up your over-the-counter collections, or make sure that you're actually billing for every unit that you should or could. Because that's an easier problem to fix than having to change your entire money model or fire people or lay people off. Like, God forbid you have to do something like that, or shut down your clinic because all you had to do was just tighten up your systems. So you can't blame your billing department or the model or the insurance contracts if you're not doing your part as a team and as an owner, right? So tighten those things up really, really well. Okay. And then lastly, you're going to look at your AR over 90 days. A lot of these things run together. Okay. A lot of these things are going to run together. And it all stems from the denial rate, right? So if your denials are really high, right? So drivers, denials, right? High denials, or denials that just aren't being worked and reconciled in a timely fashion, right? It could be dead claims. Okay. So if there are claims in your AR that are write-offs or that are approaching timely filing, you want to make sure that those are cleaned up. Probably once a quarter, you'd want to look at all of those claims that are in the 120 plus and decide, like, hey, have we reached timely filing? Perhaps there's just really nothing that we can do to consolidate those claims at this point. And then going back to patient balances. Okay. This can really be an issue. If you're not collecting up front over the counter and you're letting patients exit your building, exit your practice without paying their bill, then you're going to have AR, and it's going to be really hard for that to be collected. Okay. So you want to make sure your denial rates are clean. Okay. So this is going to be auths, verifications, coding. That's it. Make sure your auths are done. Make sure they're dialed in. One person owns them and they're being reported every week. Make sure your verifications are accurate, complete, thorough, and make sure you're only using codes that are approved by that insurance. And if you are running into issues, scrub them on the front end so that we can have clean claims going out. Okay. And so that's how you fix your AR there. All right. Some of the mistakes that I've seen with practice owners are not measuring this data. The mistakes. not measuring data. Okay, not measuring data and making data-driven decisions. Guys, I know how heavy and emotionally taxing running a practice can be. And sometimes the emotions get so overwhelming that we tell ourselves that, oh, there's nothing we can do about it. But if you just get better at running your data and using data to drive decisions, you will unlock clarity. That doesn't mean you're going to get rich, but that means you're going to have control. You're going to have control and direction on a consistent basis, which is where you want to be, so that you can keep doing what you love and serving patients and serving your team and keeping the doors open, right? But make sure you're measuring your data and making data-driven decisions. Number 2, not maximizing efficiency. Okay, so that starts with verifications, authorizations, over-the-counter collections, billing and coding, maximizing your billing and coding, working your AR well and clean, and having a billing meeting and holding your billing team accountable. Okay, those are really, really big. Okay, and then I'd say number 3 is going to be avoiding denial patterns. Okay, denial patterns are there, and they don't have to be there. But if you have these denials and you're not actually saying like, hey, what caused that denial and what can we do to fix it? Not just this time, but forever in the future, consistently. If you're not doing that, then those denials are going to continue to pile up. All right, and so what I would recommend is, like I said, having that. Oh, number 4, not having a biller meeting. Okay, not having a biller meeting is huge. So having that weekly or monthly recurring biller meeting, running the metrics, having them reported to you, and saying, hey, what are the metrics saying and what can we do to fix it, right? What are our top denial reasons? Great question. What can our internal front desk change or improve to reduce denials on the first run? Huge. Number 3, what is our average collections per visit? And is it still consistent with our most recent projections data? Huge question. All right. Number 4, how many visits did we bill for that period of time, whether it's a month or a week or whatever it is? And versus how many visits were actually completed, so that we can look at that submission rate, make sure that we're at 100%. And then number 5 is our collection percentage versus our projected staying consistent, or are we seeing it slide down for some reason? If we're seeing it slide down, it means something's off. Either denials are creeping up, we're under billing, we're under collecting over the counter, our billing department's not working denials, something's off. And so we have to jump in as owners and diagnose that and become leaders of that revenue cycle. Okay? So that's our show for today. Hopefully that helps. Billing is kind of a heavy lift, but it doesn't have to be. If you have a really good system, and that could be internally or an outsourced solution. If you're somebody who is looking for, if you're managing billing internally, it's going to be really critical that your staffing ratios are appropriate, that you have the administrative support that you need to deploy the energy and bandwidth and systems towards the things that actually improve your revenue cycle, not just maintain it, or not just not just slowly bleed out, right? So you can use things like virtual assistants, virtual admin teams, to ensure that you're focusing on the right things. So having those meeting rhythms and those statistics in place is key. And if you're hiring an outsourced billing partner, no problem. The same accountability framework is there. You're meeting with them regularly. You're having them report those statistics to you, and you're holding them accountable. All right. Because if you're treating billing like this, like I said earlier, like this blind spot or this black box, then you're going to be flying blind. You're not going to have control or a strong pulse on the revenue cycle. You don't need to know every single code, every single payroll, but you do need to know your denial rate. You need to know your percent collected versus projected. You need to know what your AR looks like, especially over 90 days. And you need the right people in the right systems owning those numbers and reporting them to you every single week, every single month. All right. Because if any of those metrics are going to be off, you probably don't have a billing problem. You probably don't have a payer mix problem. You have a staffing and people systems problem. You have unclear roles. You have no real accountability, and you have no simple rhythm of checking the scoreboard regularly so that you can execute on the data. All right. If you guys need any help with that, just book a call with me or my team. We can help you analyze your revenue cycle and put the right people in the right places. And we can also help you with a few systems as well. If any of that sounds of use, check out the show notes. You can book a call. Make sure you go check out Doreen. If you are, she's a physical therapist biller. She owns PT Billing Associates. Make sure you check out her website below. But all that to say, don't make the mistake that everyone makes. And watch this. If you made it to this far in the video, you need to help. You need some help, right? Don't make the mistake in doing nothing. Go actually take one or two concepts from this video and execute and implement with your team, because that's going to be the thing that drives results. Your doingness, your willingness to execute on the thing. Okay? Go figure out if your billing department is actually working. If you need to make changes, reach out. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll see you on the next one. God bless.